Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I just finished Ahsoka episode 7, Dreams and Madness. Guys, this is just my first initial reaction and review of watching the episode twice, back to back, and we will go more in depth with lore as the day continues over on Headless Ned Stark's channel. With that said, there will be major spoilers in this video, so if you have not seen Ahsoka episode 7 yet, please go and do so. Overall, I thought this episode was pretty strong, and although unfortunately we didn't get a lot of the answers that we were hoping to get, there was still a lot of build-up, and we got a lot more development from characters such as Baylan and Shin, and especially Ezra, as we also get our first look at the new Ahsoka the White, and how Ahsoka's whole approach has changed since her interactions with Anakin and the world between worlds. With all that said though, my favourite part of the episode by far was Grand Admiral Thrawn, and this episode truly went a long way to show that Dave Filoni and the crew working on Ahsoka know who Admiral Thrawn is and what makes him so dangerous. In last week's episode, I felt that we got a look at Grand Admiral Thrawn's military and physical might with his army, where in this week's episode we got the more interesting part of Thrawn, the more intellectual side to how he approaches things. Moving on though, we get a look at the relationship between Anakin and Ahsoka, as Anakin has recorded various training videos for Ahsoka Tano, telling her that he won't always be there for her, and to prepare against enemies such as Ventress, Grievous, and even Count Dooku. While these name drops in the episodes are always fun to hear and really connects the Clone Wars to the new era of Star Wars, the most interesting aspect I took from it is how Ahsoka's opinion on Anakin has changed now. Even Hu Yang states that Anakin was a great master. After the World Between Worlds, Ahsoka Tano really understands Anakin a lot more and the character of who he ultimately became. She's one of the few characters in the lore, besides Luke, who truly understands who Anakin was and who Darth Vader was, connecting the characters and relationship between Ahsoka and Luke to Vader and Anakin even further. Anakin's importance in this episode does not end here though. It goes to Grand Admiral Thrawn, who once he hears that Ahsoka Tano was the Padawan of Anakin, is filled with a sense of fear that he very rarely shows. Thrawn has fought alongside both Anakin as well as Vader and realizes just how dangerous and powerful he was, but more than this, how powerful his teachings were. He realizes that he's dealing with Ahsoka Tano, who is not like the Jedi of old. She was trained by the greatest of Jedi, and because of that, Ahsoka needs to be handled with great care. This is Grand Admiral Thrawn at his best, studying his enemy and coming to the realization that with all the players on the Halo Reach map, shout out to Dino Joe 23 for that one, the two things that he needs to be most wary of is Baylan Skoll and Ahsoka. Zeb was officially name dropped, and it was said that he was out training recruits, which is of course explains his absence from the series. Moving on to Ezra and Sabine, although we don't get a lot more of Ezra, we do get to reconnect with him as a character and see how he's evolved. He's clearly not a brashy kid anymore, but one thing is certain, he is extremely excited to go back to the known galaxy. Ezra knows that there are many enemies out there, including Thrawn. I don't think he realizes just how ready Thrawn is though to return to the known galaxy, how dire things are and what Sabine has sacrificed. I believe that this will change the relationship between Ezra and Sabine, as now Ezra's final sacrifice in Rebels is diluted because of the decision that he had nothing to do with him. Although he's glad that he will be able to return to the known galaxy, Thrawn, the person who Ezra sacrificed himself for in order to stop, is still now a major threat in the galaxy because of the consequences of Sabine's actions. Grand Admiral Thrawn knows exactly when to attack and when to retreat. His main objective has never been to destroy his enemies right away, as he does not underestimate the power, especially when concerning Ahsoka. Instead, the most important thing to Thrawn is to not underestimate a Force sensitive ever again, and to see what they are made of. Even though he's forced to have to retreat his troops, he calls this an absolute victory. He explains that he has time that Ahsoka Tano does not. More importantly, he now understands Ahsoka far more. Just as Sabine is blinded by Ezra, he believes that Ahsoka was blinded by finding Sabine. But moving on to what I believe is the most interesting aspect of this episode, Baylan and Shin. Speaking of Baylan, I believe that he's obsessed with the duality of the Force itself and finding the perfect place within it. He loved what the Jedi Order once stood for, but he hated the weakness. Similarly, he does not like the ambition that Shin shows and realizes that in order to find a perfect balance, one must wield the power of the dark side that the Sith and the dark siders wield, and control and the understanding that the Jedi wield without any of their weaknesses. This episode is titled Dreams and Madness, I believe that this is a direct reflection of Baylan and Shin in their relationship, despite in the previous episode, Baylan telling Shin that she was trained to be something far greater than any Jedi. In this episode, Baylan makes the decision to dismiss her, telling her to claim her new place in the new empire to come. It's clear that Baylan has no intention of joining Thrawn's new empire, but seeks to end the cycle once and for all. This is quite interesting and reflected in their armour also, and the very wolves that they ride in this episode, with it now being very popularly known that the names Skull and Hattie represent two different wolves in Norse mythology, one that sought to seek the sun and the other the moon, and the very correlation of their armour and the wolves that they ride reflects their various stances and how their goals ultimately do not align. He even calls her ambitious in this episode, and more in line with that of the wielders of the dark side of the Force, and because of that he chooses to separate himself from her. Baylan and Shin want different things it seems, and keeping Shin around could prove to be dangerous. His parting words for her was her final lesson: impatience for victory will guarantee defeat. This is the reference to Thrawn. He understands that he needs to be less eager for victory. This is shown by Thrawn's priorities to understand his enemy and not be too eager to destroy them. It even speaks to the differences between Thrawn and Lord Sidious, and the empires that they constructed. This was the downfall of Sidious. More than once he was too eager for victory, and this ultimately led to his defeat. He underestimated his enemies. He surrounded himself with the such likes of Vader, he failed to sense Vader's confliction, and his ultimate embrace of the light side. This is a mistake that Thrawn will never do, and this is why Thrawn is the perfect sequel villain to Lord Sidious. Following this, we get another lightsaber duel between Baylan and Ahsoka, where as we expected, Ahsoka would dual-wield her lightsabers. Baylan even states that he does not believe Ahsoka could ever defeat him. It's clear that Anakin's teachings are sinking in. Making no mistake, Ahsoka is extremely powerful, and I do believe that Baylan is highly underestimating Ahsoka in this moment, a mistake that Thrawn will not repeat. One of the major themes I found with Ahsoka is the idea of balance. The balance of Force. Anakin Skywalker teaches Ahsoka to be a warrior, but also someone that can be compassionate and forgiving. The very world of Peridia represents life to Baylan and the snail turtles, and death to the Purgle, Thrawn and Ezra. I do hope that in the final episode Baylan's plans are revealed to us, as even Thrawn is completely unfamiliar with what this mysterious, not so dark Jedi seeks in the end. So I'm going to give this episode a solid 7.5 out of 10, although it lacked a lot of the answers that I've been wanting, but I do believe that Dave Filoni will give us some of those in the next episode. After all, it is the last one. But anyway, my friends, I would love to hear what your thoughts are of episode 7 of Ahsoka, Dreams and Madness, in the comments down below. What did you think of this episode? What were some of your favourites and least favourite parts? As always, stay milky, thanks for stopping by, and may the Force be with you.